Hey everybody, and welcome to our preview of Double Masters 2022, where we're getting a lot of awesome reprints, and I have a ton to go over today, so I am going to jump into it. But before I get into the white cards, some caffeine. Alright, so we'll start with the white cards as always. I don't remember everything I went over in the last video, so some of these might be double, but I'm just so excited over the valuable cards that those I know are the unique ones, and I'll give you guys a little estimate of what the current going rate of the cards are that are in the sets, so we know kind of the value we're getting with this year's reprints. So I'll start with the Abzan Falconeer. This is a 3-mana 2/3 human soldier. It has Outlast for 1 mana, where you tap 1 mana, tap it, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature, but you can only do it as a sorcery. And then each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has flying. Makes sense for the card, very thematic. And then we have Einok Bonken, which is a 2-mana 2/1 creature. It's a dog soldier, also has Outlast, but it's for 2 mana. And then each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has First Strike. So definitely these two work together well in a token deck. Probably works even better if we think about modification decks. Then we have one of our valuable cards to go over today, which is Divine Visitation. This is a 5-mana mythic enchantment. This is if one or more creature tokens would be created under your control. That many 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance are created instead. This card is one of the valuable cards getting reprint in the set, and it will be going so far for about $10 for this card. So it's really good to be able to see this reprint, and with a lot of angel synergy that we've been seeing in some of the more recent prints, it might be interesting to see if this incentivizes some changes in those sorts of decks. Then we have Machias the Lunarch. This is a 1 white mana that X generic. It's a 0/0 legendary human cleric that enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. If you tap him, you give him another +1/+1 counter. If you tap him for his other ability, you can remove one of these counters, and then you can put a +1/+1 counter on each other creature you control. Definitely seems to be a good card. We also have in this reprint set Path to Exile coming back. So this is a 1-mana instant. If you haven't seen it before, it exiles target creature, and then the controller of that creature gets to search their library for a basic land, put it on the battlefield, tapped, and then shuffle. This is a very well-known card, and because of this set, the price will be going down to about $3 for this card. That gets us into our blue cards. So we'll start with As Foretold. This is a 3-mana mythic enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, you put a time counter on this, and once each turn you may pay 0 mana rather than pay the mana cost for a spell that you've cast that has a mana value X or less, where X is the number of time counters that are on As Foretold. Definitely a really good card, and thanks to the set, the reprint is going for about $7 now. So definitely a good card, and definitely something you want to try to get in one of the packs if you can. Then we have Body Double. This is a 5-mana 0/0 shapeshifter. You may have this enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature card that is in a graveyard. So this is definitely a good way to resurrect, sort of, a card that has been taken out, or maybe if it's working in a mill deck, this also works really well at being able to copy a card that someone else had to mill. Next we have Consecrated Sphinx. This is a 6-mana 4/6 mythic rare Sphinx. It has flying, and whenever an opponent draws a card, you may draw 2 cards. Definitely see this a lot in some of the more expensive decks. This card, thanks to the reprint, is currently going for about $36. So definitely if you pull this from one of the packs, you definitely get your value just in this one card. Next we have Deep Analysis, a 4-mana sorcery. Target player draws 2 cards, and you can flash back for 2 mana, 1 blue, 1 generic, and you have to pay 3 life. And again, this is just where you can cast it from your graveyard. You just exile it at the end of the resolution of that effect. Definitely a good card. Then we have Domestication, a 4-mana enchantment aura. This is enchant a creature. You control enchanted creature, and at the beginning of your end step, if enchanted creature's power is 4 or greater, you do have to sacrifice Domestication. So it's really cool that it's temporary if it's a really big creature, or you can gather something, get something on the board that is small but a threat on your opponent's side. So this can pull a lot of shenanigans out. It's a good card. Next is a card that has a lot of excitement in this set, which is everyone's excited to see Force of Negation getting a reprint. This is a 3-mana 2 blue 1 generic instant. If it's not your turn, you may exile a blue card from your hand rather than pay this spell's mana cost. Counter target non-creature spell, and if that spell is countered this way, exile it instead of putting it into its owner's graveyard. So this is one of those cards that can be played even before you've taken your first official turn. So you can counter something happening even if you haven't yet had a turn. It's a really good card to see getting reprint, and currently the reprinted card is going for about $47. So definitely a good card. Definitely get your value out of the packs if you pull this card. Next we have Gifts Ungiven. This is a 4-mana instant. Search your library for up to 4 cards with different names and reveal them. Target opponent chooses 2 of the cards and put the chosen cards into your graveyard and the rest into your hand, then shuffle. This is definitely another card that is nice to see a reprint of, because it's one of those cards that when you see it, it typically works in recursion decks where, okay, I don't really care what you put in my graveyard, I'm still getting to cast what I want to. So pick whatever you want, either one's fine with me. Next we're seeing Cataract Leviathan coming back, an 8-mana Leviathan where when it enters the battlefield, return all other non-land permanents to their owner's hands, and it can unearth for 7 mana. The unearth effect is for 7 mana. You cast it as a sorcery, and you can get it from your graveyard. It has haste for that turn, and then at the end of that turn, you do have to exile the card. So it's a good card to see coming back. Right now, the reprint's only going for about $3. It's just a really fun card for Leviathan decks, or even just blue decks to have some shenanigans to bounce things to everyone's hand. Another card that's getting a lot of excitement from this set is Mana Drain. So it's really nice to see this reprint coming back. It's a 2-mana instant. It's 2 blue. And counters target spell at the beginning of your next main phase, add an amount of mana, colorless, equal to that spell's mana value. It's a really good card, and this reprint is going for about $36. Again, another card that just adds value to the set. And then we have Pull from Tomorrow coming into the set. It's a 2 blue mana and X generic instant that allows you to draw X cards and then discard a card. Just nice to see some more card draw. Then we also have Vincere the Shaper Savant, a 4 mana card, 2 blue, 2 generic, 2/2 legendary human wizard with flash, and when this enters the battlefield, return target spell or permanent to its owner's hand. It's a nice counterspell, a kind of counterspell that works. It's a creature, it gives you a threat on the board, sort of, but really it's just meant to be a 4-mana bounce a spell back to someone's hand. It can be used to bounce a creature threat as well, or even an enchantment that has hit the board where you didn't leave mana open and someone else got a threat enchantment down on the board, and this is your way to be able to bounce that back on their end step, untap your mana, and then hold mana open for them to play it again on their next turn so you can counter it. And then we finally, for blue, have Wash Out, a 4-mana sorcery that returns all permanents of the color of your choice to their owner's hands. So once again, another good bounce card for blue. So it's nice to see all these reprints coming in. Keeping the video short, this is where we're going to end for white and blue. Next, we're going to get a sneak peek on the black cards that we have for the set. So stay tuned for that. Until then, later gamers.